Well, we got our first nail biter of the season. Some pretty sloppy basketball from the Bulls there at the end, but they still managed to walk away with a win. Not only that, but they go 4-0 for the first time since the 1996-97 season and their longest winning streak since back in 2017. It's an amazing feeling to say that the Bulls have still yet to lose a game between the preseason and the regular season. We have not seen this team lose a game, and although at times in this one, the Bulls were playing a little iffy, to say the least. The Bulls did what they needed to do and to take out and beat a team that they're supposed to beat. I'm actually curious what the Bulls' time of leads is across all their games so far this season. I'm sure Rob Schaefer will put something out there, some sort of stat line on this, as it's pretty rare to see the Bulls at any point in time be behind in a given game so far this season. Also, more importantly, Zach LaVine notched his first 4-game winning streak of his NBA career. So now we can put an end to that ridiculous narrative the national media tries to portray without any context to the type of rosters he has been on throughout his career. But anyway, let's recap this Bulls game most recent performance, shall we? So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Before I get into the content, a quick word from our sponsor of today's video. Guys, you know I don't do video sponsors very often, but when Thrive Fantasy approached me, and I myself being a fantasy sports fanatic, I thought I had to try these guys out and test out their app to see if it's something I can get on board with. And guys, it's actually an incredible platform. So come prop up on Thrive Fantasy this season. Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. With Thrive, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus only on top tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. You can choose 10 out of 20 available player props to build your lineup. Each prop is assigned a fantasy value for both the over and under based on how likely it is to hit. You hit the most props and rack up the most points to win a share of the prize pool. And guys, Thrive's featured $50,000 guarantee contest is $20 to enter, and first place takes home $20,000. Use promo code BULLS when you sign up today, and you will receive a 100% instant first deposit match up to $100. You can download Thrive Fantasy on the App Store or Play Store, or by visiting their website at thrivefantasy.com. And if you sign up, we'd love to hear which players you guys select, and we can start a little friendly competition in the actual channel itself. Also, if you want to support me and the work that I don't do Patreon or charge any membership fees. This is a great way to do that, where you actually receive something in return. So remember, the link is in the description below, which automatically includes my code in there. But now that we got that out of the way, let's get back into the content. So I'm not going to sit here and say that this was a high quality team that the Bulls faced tonight, but it's probably the best team the Bulls have faced thus far, even with the Raptors not having Siakam. And as I mentioned in my weekly preview video, the Raptors are actually a young and talented team, and not a team that you can take lightly. And you saw that in the fourth quarter, where the Bulls got a little complacent and let the Raptors right back into this game after leading by as much as 20 points. And listen, give the Raptors credit. They hung around throughout this one and played hard despite being shorthanded. This is going to be a solid team in the next couple of seasons, but with the balanced scoring and defense of the Bulls, the Raptors were not able to walk away with this one in a win on their own home court, despite the Bulls kind of falling asleep on offense there at the end. Now, a few important things to note. One, that Vucevic clearly was not himself in this one. He was actually listed as questionable up until the start of the game due to an illness, and the guy looked pretty gassed there towards the end with some of the missteps that he made in the final minute of the game. Then the other piece was the Bulls' defense. Yes, their defense yet again is what enabled them to win this one. Yes, some mental lapses on defense down the stretch, but there were also huge defensive stops at the end that allowed the Bulls to keep and hold their lead. Those two critical steals by Caruso there at the end were huge for the Bulls. Caruso had another incredible game on defense, finishing with 4 steals, coming off a night in which he had 5 steals against the Pistons. And then finally, the other key piece to this game was the former Raptor himself, DeMar DeRozan. Not just his 26 points and 6 assists, nor the fact that he hit a couple of threes, but more so his ability to get to the foul line. It's one area the front office wanted to focus on this offseason when the Bulls were dead last year in terms of free throw attempts, and DeRozan was a perfect 10 for 10 tonight from the line. I will say, I was a little surprised that Billy Donovan was going with DeRozan down the stretch, controlling the ball and taking some of the final shots in the last minute over Zach LaVine. Hopefully that doesn't bother Zach at all, but going with DeMar was a good call because he hit some big fadeaway shots and drawing contact to get to the line. LaVine did still have a good game despite having not scored a single field goal until near halftime. He ended up finishing the game with 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists on 7 for 16 shooting. Lonzo Ball also had himself a nice game. Again, his presence on the defensive end has just been so key in deflecting passes, poking the ball away, and getting a play going in transition has been so critical for the Bulls, and part of the reason why he played the most minutes tonight with 38. Lonzo finished the game with 15 points and 5 assists along with another 2 steals. As for Vucevic, as I mentioned before, the guy just didn't really seem like himself tonight. If you look at his stat line, it actually looks pretty solid, but he was pretty slow throughout this game, especially in transition, and kind of fell off there towards the end. That really enabled the Raptors to get back into this. But what has still been impressive to me about Vucevic is his improved defense so far this season. Another 3 steals for Vuce tonight to go along with his 17 points and 8 rebounds. Now, I've mentioned this in the past few games, but something just doesn't seem right about Patrick Williams. And I don't know, I might need to make a separate video about my thoughts on this, but it used to be, Patrick isn't aggressive enough on offense, how we really need to see him putting up more shots and driving to the basket. But it was always with the caveat of, but his defense is great. But honestly, I noticed it especially in today's game. The guy was getting cooked on defense by guys like Scotty Barnes and Precious Achiuwa. At times, it was almost like he wasn't even trying all that hard. I could be reading into it more than I should, and it's very possible he could still be recovering from those injuries to both his ankle and his shoulder and isn't letting on to it bothering him to the medical staff as much as it actually is. I don't know. I've just been a little concerned with what I've seen from Patrick thus far. I know it's only been 4 games. I know we kind of expected all of this after the free agency moves that the Bulls made, that his development might slow down a bit, but I was kind of hoping that it wouldn't really be the case regardless. We would at least see him be a very strong defender. Either way, he's still very young, and I'm sure he will bounce back in no time. Troy Brown Jr. actually had himself a nice game, played solid defense, had some nice athletic plays at the rim, scoring 11 points, and then Alizé showing up nicely in this one, getting some key minutes and scoring 6 points off the bench. And of course, our guy, our 6th man, our GOAT, Alex Caruso. Bulls might not have been able to walk away with a win in this one if it wasn't for his hustle defense there down the stretch. The Bulls overall as a team, again, another game where they played well in taking care of the ball and limiting their turnovers for the first 3 quarters. They only had 5 turnovers up until the 4th quarter, and then had 7 turnovers in the 4th quarter alone, which is something the Bulls will hopefully figure out, because the last thing you want is for your team to get careless at the end of the game and let the opposing team come back and win. They turned the ball over a lot in their last game against the Pistons as well. They did force the Raptors to commit 19 turnovers, though, another testament to the Bulls' defense. The Bulls shot the ball decently well, finishing the night 48% from the field, 44% from 3, and going 21 for 22 from the free throw line, which is great to see. Another 11 steals for the Bulls tonight. They remain one of the best teams in the league in terms of steals per game, as well as top 5 in defensive rating and points allowed, even though we were told that this Bulls team would be terrible on defense this season. The Bulls are off until Thursday, which is probably a good thing. A couple days off after a close game like this is going to be needed to give them some added practice time and figure out what's been going on with them in these 4th quarters recently. The Bulls will be back home to face the Knicks. I'm sure a lot of people will be tuning into that one with Rose back at the United Center. I'll have a live game chat for that as always. And guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.